Today's video is an exciting video, and I'm laughing about it. We laughed about it off camera because today we're going to be talking about stress and reframing stress and understanding stress in a slightly different way. And I'm laughing about it because we've been open here in Chattanooga for almost 9 years now. And probably the number one thing that we help and support people with is this very thing. And it took us about 4 months of doing these videos to do a video on stress. But what today's jam session is going to be between Monica and I is really just reframing what stress actually is, how it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. And then if you are someone that deals with stress on a regular basis, which if you are a human being, it's probably everyone in the world.
Especially in the Western world.
Especially in our Western world, we have stress all the time. How we can start mitigating that stress and start to grow and evolve and move through those things.
And I like that you said see it differently. So that's what this is going to provide, is just clarity on what stress exactly is, how it affects our body, but also how can we use it for good. And then we have some really awesome tips that I'm excited to end with.
Really awesome tips made by someone over here.
Really awesome. I actually saw a stat that actually makes my heart hurt about stress. And it's like over 70% of people live their life in survival and stress. Over 70% of people. And that's people that's people reporting. But there's some people that aren't even reporting that. And that to me literally breaks my heart because we're not meant to live like that. And this is just how we've all been kind of raised, that this is normal and it's not. And so I just that's why I'm excited to do this, to reframe it for people, that it can be different.
And even before we get into some of the concepts we want to get into, just what you said, we say this stat a lot. And I wasn't around 100 years ago. I wasn't around 500 years ago. I wasn't around 1,000 years ago. Maybe not in this lifetime, right? Maybe in some other house. I was somewhere else, Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. That's not for this conversation. But there's always been stress in human history, right? Like saber-toothed tiger, a bear, just anything in life.
Providing for your family.
Providing for a family, whether you don't want to talk hundreds of years ago or today. But I think in today's world, in 2024, the year that we're making this video, they say that a human being gets more stress to their input to their nervous system in one single year than 100 years ago's plus generation had in an entire lifetime. And you may think, oh, life is so much better. Yes, it is technically, better. We've evolved as a race, as human beings, but we got Wi-Fi. We got these smartphones that we're constantly bombarding our nervous system. We have all these chemicals, not only in our food, but around us. So we just have a lot of stress in our life. So we always say to people, it's not if stress is going to happen, it's when it happens. It's how well we start processing through. That's what really determines our quality of health and really our quality of life.
And I wanted you to kind of go into the vibrational aspect, because you're just so good at talking about that, for people to understand vibrationally. And then we're going to go over the different types of stress. Our purpose and our intention of this is that for you guys to kind of look at your life with maybe a magnifying glass, not in a stressful way of just being what exactly is stressing me out? Because all stress, truly, if there's too much of it in our body, we're overloaded with it, it decreases our immune system, it causes severe inflammation in the body. It also zaps us of energy. So it does a lot of negative things in the body that we need to become aware of what's actually stressing us out to begin with.
So stress, let's just reframe what stress is. Stress is an experience. It's a physical, mental, emotional, chemical, social, career, family. There's different aspects of how we perceive stress, but really it's just an experience that is happening, whether it's actually real or we're perceiving it, which we'll probably get into. But your nervous system being your perception system, how you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and that gut feeling, it is the medium of this stress coming into your life. So what we talk about a lot, and we've talked about this in other videos, and if you've been in the office, you've heard this probably 50 times, the bandwidth of your nervous system is really the key to this, because we all had experiences, and again, this is different for different people, but certain experiences, me and you can be in a room, something can happen, whether that's with our kids or someone walks by and says something, or maybe there's a smell, right? Physical, mental, emotional, chemical, and it can really affect me and stress me out but this person over here, la-di-da-da, no big deal, right? What? And again, it's different in different aspects of life. It's not just about physical stuff or emotional stuff, or if something affects one person or another that they're better or not. It's that for some reason that experience is not outside of her bandwidth and her capacity, or excuse me, it is within her bandwidth and capacity, and it's not within mine. And what happens is if we have these stresses, and again, we'll get into that stress is actually really a good thing, and we'll get into that in just a second. But if we have too many of these experiences, these energetic inputs that come in that we don't process, just like kind of like these layers of an onion, they start to build up. Tension builds up within our system. It causes a dissonance within our system. These neural centers can't connect the way they're supposed to, and just stress just starts to compound. And when stress compounds, those experiences, again, we've talked about this many times, 95% of who you are is all subconscious patterns, and your nervous system doesn't know the difference between if this is happening right here, right now, if this happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So it triggers this response in our physiology. Cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine run through our system, and that pattern runs within our body. And that's really what stress is. It's an inability that in this moment, we cannot process it. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't grow from it, and this is why we have to look at things and integrate things in a different way, but that's essentially just to try to simplify what stress is. It's just an experience that's outside of our capacity.
And there are totally things you can do every day to mitigate them, but also grow from them, like you said. Like we don't have to live like that and be a victim to it,
Yeah.
which is really important.
I think the biggest reframing for me in my life is understanding the concept of eustress. Like that every experience is a technical stress, even a walk.
You stress.
EU stress.
yeah.
EU, they're saying EU, yeah, EU stress. Because every experience, even going for a gentle walk, it can actually create growth in your body, right? Like I think about it too. So if every experience is meant for you, if you want a stronger heart, you have to go for a walk and then a little bit harder of a walk and then runs, right? If you want to increase your cardiovascular health. If you want stronger muscles, you can't just lift a 5-pound dumbbell the rest of your life. You eventually have to go more and more and stress yourself. If you want to run faster, if you want to expand your businesses, you want to expand your mind, you have to learn and grow and do uncomfortable things. We've all heard we got to go outside of our comfort zone, but yet there is a limit of like what you can do in each moment. Like we have a 100-pound dumbbell weight right here. For me to pick it up, it's going to be a slight stress, and I'm going to probably be able to do it pretty easily.
Yeah, right.
Wow, just whip it up there. I was trying to be modest, right? But get Monica up there, she's going to get she's going to just do this right here.
Just kidding. Way more stressful.
It's going to be way more stressful, right? And again, it's body type, it's life experiences that we've had. So let's acknowledge that if we are a person that get stressed out a lot, we have had experiences that have led us to this moment. So it's not condemning yourself. It's like, yeah, acknowledging it, which we're going to talk about.
And actually what's interesting is sometimes we don't really realize when we are stressed because we become acclimated to it. Like we've worked with many people that we know archetypes. Like we know what a body feels like when it's literally operating in fight or flight. And some people come here and they're not even aware of it until later, how very stressed they are. Oh, I'm not stressed at all.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. That's not my issue. But I am having all of these problems in my body.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, they haven't connected the dots yet. So that's what's interesting. A lot of people don't know they are. But if you do know you are, that's definitely the first step, is like understanding that, oh, I'm a little overloaded right now. What can I do?
Yeah, people think that if they don't have like this stress response, they don't get freaked out on stuff, that they're not experiencing stress.
I thought I used to say I wasn't stressed, like years ago. I was probably one of those stressed people. I didn't even know it.
I think about my dad specifically. He had pain and stress for so long, and then he started going through this process. And I remember like 6 months into it, he's like, I didn't know how much pain and how much stress I was actually under until it offloaded off me. So sometimes we're just living in it. And again, it might not just be that we're feeling stressed out. You may be happy-go-lucky, but if organs are failing, if we're having manifestations of anxiety maybe, or even, just stuff, pain that comes up.
Issues, yeah.
Anything that's coming up, your body is giving you these signs and messages that you are taking in too much stress and not growing from it. So, yeah.
So let's go over the different types of stress, because I think it's good to kind of categorize some things. That way you can kind of begin to look at different compartments of your life and be like, Oh, actually, that is actually very stressful. Not really. Yes, that is too. So that's why I like to say and kind of give examples
Yeah.
of that too. So we have mental emotional, which is probably
80, 90%.
I was gonna say 90%, 80%.
And intertwined with all the other stuff as well.
The stress
Yeah.
in our mind
Yeah.
space is going to be the biggest thing to begin looking at. And this is like things that we've experienced in our past, like from 0 to 7, we're completely subconscious when we're growing up. So like we're just downloading our entire environment. So if things are stressful, real or perceived, we're just like downloading it. This is what it is. This was stressful. You know what I mean? And then later on, we can have time to actually process it. But things from our past, maybe like even being like bullied, I would say like when we were, I talk about that a lot because I think things like that really come up for people. That's stressful. Or even deadlines for school when you're in 6th grade, like a test. Like I know you had a lot of stuff like that with anxiety.
Yeah.
And stress leads to other things. We are also deciphering between stress and anxiety. Like stress, if you're experiencing some sort of stress in your body, you have different routes you can actually take of how you're going to cope with it. Some people cope with it with anxiety. Some people cope with it with depression. Some people cope with it with just shutting down completely. So everyone handles it a little different. So you can also kind of reflect on how you handle stress. I think it's just really interesting to be able to handle it. But mental emotional also is just like, we have 2 younger kids. That is stress at times.
A little stressful at times.
At times, it is stressful. Responsibilities of like providing for your children, responsibilities at work, like business things that you have to do, especially for an entrepreneur, like these things you have to handle, wear all the hats. But if you are working in a business environment at like a corporate job, you have deadlines. Maybe you're overseeing some employees, like those are stressful experiences and also just emotional ways of being, like within partnerships, friendships, the weather even affects people's stress in their body of like, oh, I'm just so stressed. It's not good. It's raining outside. Like they're affected by it. That is a type of stress.
I think and we're saying the word stress because this video is about stress. But again, everything she just said, kids, personal responsibilities, professional responsibilities, playing sports, having something come up, having something that happened to you in the past, they're not stressors. They're just life. They're just experiences.
They're just vibrational inputs.
They're just vibrational. Yeah, and that we are not quite processing well. So again, it's like you're saying all that. There's different aspects of it. And my goal in this video was just to continue to reframe like, oh, this is stressful. We can acknowledge it, but it's just an experience. It's just something that life is giving me, and you can't escape it, right? We want to. A lot of people just want to escape stress, and my invitation to you is like embrace stress.
Actually, and hit it head on, which we're going to talk about that because that has been the biggest thing for me to move through my stress is to like actually move through it and not avoid it, because that's not good for health and wellness. And that's part of my story too.
And the other two, you have mental, emotional, personal responsibilities, professional responsibilities, interactions with people, places, and things. And then physical, those are car accidents. Those are just sitting down for 8 hours a day. That's stressful on your body. It doesn't seem like it's stressful because you don't feel like you're doing anything, but being in this closed, stuck posture, stress by looking down on our phones, that's stress on our system. Again, this is a slight stress, but it's these things that build up over time. Those things are the things that just kind of
even like me picking up, I don't think I can pick up a 100-pound dumbbell.
I think you get a little
maybe
something.
With 2. I'm saying with 1. If I picked up, let's say like a 40-pound, that is a physical stress for my body, which is a eustress because it's actually helping my muscles to grow bigger, stronger, my bones actually to solidify the weight of that. So it's all good things. Again, it's perception of stress.
Yeah.
And then the last one, and that's self-explanatory, is physical stress. We just want to touch on the categories. Chemical stress is also a big one. This is when people embark on a health journey, and the first thing they really look at is like the food that they're putting in their bodies, like how they're nourishing their temple. Yeah, so like things that aren't actually food, like packaged things, hydrogenated things, refined sugars, all of those things are definitely a stress for the body. And when something like that, which I wouldn't even say that's a eustress, I would say that is, I think in snippets, it's hormesis.
On our old conversation,
It's
it's a little bit
snippets.
at a time.
I'm
It's
saying
good, yeah.
all the
Yeah,
time.
totally.
That's a stress that your nervous system has to process extra things, which is why some people are so tired all the time, because they're having to process not only what they're eating, if they're eating really bad foods because maybe they're not aware of it, but also mental, emotional things, physical things. Like that's a lot to process.
It's a lot going on.
So food is a big thing with chemicals, but also wireless technology, smokes, fogs, fumes, things that we're breathing in, cleaning supplies even. Like these are all chemical stresses that our body has to process.
I have no data to back this up. Just in our conversation right now, we're talking about percentage of stress. We said mental, emotional, like 90%, right? If I had to actually really think about it, I think, and this is actually really funny when people come in with physical pain, physical stress in their body, tension in their body. They're like, no, it's just this muscle or this bone's out of place or this. And like, I say this to not a lot of people, but I'm like, it's the physical part of it and doing these things. It's a small percentage. So now that I'm thinking about it, it's like physical is probably 5 to 10% of the input. The mental, the chemical actually go up like 30, 40%, and the rest of it, the other half is mental, emotional, right? The chemical inputs to our body, those are then adding physical inputs, physical limitations and stuff. And then we kind of mess up our, our posture or other things, like we're weaker, so we pick something up and then it causes this pain. So we live in a physical world.
And the physical is like a manifestation of the mental, emotional, and the chemical.
Absolutely.
So like that is really like why that happens in the first place. Like the body's just trying to adapt. In the adaptation, okay, my atlas juts to the right, or I have a really bad headache because I'm trying to process this very difficult conversation I have to have in 3 hours from now. Like so just for you guys to be aware of that, the physical is actually the manifestation of the other ones.
Which, this may or may not technically apply to what exactly we're saying. I literally just had a reassessment with someone today. Purely came in for physical pain. We have changed nothing in his way he moves, how he moves, and he's been under care for 4 months. He also told me he doesn't really get stressed out. He has just been going through this process and integrating. He has had 0 physical pain just because his body is now integrating over the last couple months way more efficiently. So it's like, you can have I love PT, I love all this other stuff that focuses on the muscles and all that stuff, but man, our body and our intelligence within our nervous system, this amazing intelligence that lives within us, if we can start integrating and the stress just a teeny bit more efficiently, physical stuff changes and all the other stuff changes as well.
And I think becoming aware of the stress, which we kind of hit on earlier, is really important before we go over the tips. So like, again, stress is just something that's new, something we haven't really experienced, that's a little out of our capacity. So this is life's opportunity to help you to grow and evolve and stretch yourself. And so what most people do when those stresses occur, maybe it's like a different task at work that you've never done before. Oh, that's stressful. And it is, because it's something new, but to see it in a way of like, okay, and these tips are going to help us to see those situations, but okay, this is something that is a little outside of my capacity, and it's actually there as a gift to help me to grow, extend myself, become stronger, become wiser, become more of myself, and armed for the future. That's really how I think if we could reframe it. It's your perception of what's going on in your life that is life-changing, and that's what's changed for us, I would say, dramatically. It's how we see our life. And we still experience stress, but we know what it is and we know what to do with it. That's like everything.
You said a new experience to cause the stress. Absolutely. We all have those things, like we're uncomfortable, which maybe you can share your story about playing softball.
Yeah, I will.
But there's also consistent stress. There's consistent people in our lives that act a certain way, say a certain thing.
And that's a pattern. So that's a pattern.
So it starts with new. And the awareness piece, like you'll have all this stuff from the old that is constantly triggering you, and then you have to be aware of that. But I think you kind of went into the advanced state. The whole process of integration and increasing your bandwidth and living an optimal life is that when you have something new, you can recognize it in the moment and you integrate real time. That's the secret sauce of like what we've seen is like new stuff will come up. But the reality is 9 out of 10 people are going to have to focus on the stuff that's been in the past that's causing these reactions.
And then the pattern things that you were just talking about. An example of that for me that I recently had a breakthrough with is that no, I'm not going to do the.
Oh, okay,
sorry. I'm going to talk about that one. That one's hilarious. This is like something everyone can relate to. It's like familial patterns. And so stuff with my family of kind of passive aggressive tendencies, or just kind of saying things, shoving it under the rug, never really talking fully about something is truly how I was raised. This is a generational thing. And so an opportunity for me came up last week where usually if something like that happened, I would be affected for days, weeks. In the effect of that is that's when our immune system is decreased. That is when our inflammation is actually enhanced in the body. That is when we feel lower energy, our sleep is affected. So I really want to reframe it so you guys understand that if there's something, a pattern going on, let's say within your family, at work, you are low grade being affected internally by that stress until you can actually fully integrate it and move past it and see it in a different way. That is truly like the invitation that life gives us. And so last week, and instead of doing the same pattern and reaction that I usually would for almost 37 years, I hit it head on and I addressed it, and we had the most amazing conversation about it and broke through, and we're in a new place right now to where that's never going to happen again. And I will never allow that into my field again, of that kind of tendency of communication and connection. I want true connection, true communication, or whatever, all the things. I want it to be different. So I had an opportunity to be different and I felt amazing. And I feel like I actually was healthier from the experience versus being negatively affected for so long, which truly leads to disease. It does. And sorry, to go back to that, I had a disease when I was 17, and a huge part of that, like I've reflected on so much of this, is that I was raised never talking about my emotions. So I was in this like low grade stress, and one of our tips is going to be talking about this. And then I took so many medications all the time because we didn't know anything else. I had some breakups with boyfriends and stuff like that. I had injuries with soccer. And then I had a vaccine that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. The last stress that was just like kerosene in my body. That was a lot. So like I know what creates disease in the body. I've actually had one, and I've actually now not had one. So like anyone can move through something. So I just wanted to just kind of share that it really affects the body.
I love that you had that experience and the awareness of like, this is happening right now, and that you could have gone down that same path that you've always gone, but you healed and you felt better because of it. And like, that's that real-time integration that that's, I don't think we've ever put that on video. Like real-time integration is the goal of this whole thing that we focus on and what we do here, and hopefully what we're sharing with you guys. So now that you guys understand that stress inherently isn't bad. It's just an experience. It's our ability to process and integrate real time that determines how we move through these things. What can we do to start mitigating the stress response? And some of these things are going to be you do when you're stressed out, but a lot of it is really outside of the stressful situation, just getting your system in a place to actually be able to move through stress more efficiently.
And some of these things are like, oh yeah, I know I got to do that because I'm stressed, but I don't do it. There's no time for that. This is just
Ain't no time for that.
There's no time for that. Like we need to like put ourselves first. And so number one is actually like daily movement. And we're not saying you need to go to a CrossFit gym or run a marathon every single day. This can literally be gentle stretching, walking down the street. This can be doing some like back bends. Like I like to do back bends and like lymphatic stuff where I have my legs up the wall. That way like things can move in my body. Matt's recently been swimming. I like to rock climb. Like daily movement is imperative for just wellness in general, but essentially for processing stress stored within the system. It helps to like when the system can shake up, that's what helps it to integrate and move and actually move those chemicals that are a repercussion of the stress to move through the body.
Yeah, the energy comes in through the experience, through our medium of the nervous system. If we integrate, we grow and the energy kind of increases. That's why we feel vibrant, more alive when we're feeling good and integrating. But if we're not moving, so that energy comes in and there's not enough blood flow, the lymphatics aren't moving, we're just in this, and people that don't move a lot, there's just this slowness to them, right? Stagnancy. Moving the body, if anything is stuck in your system, it's going to get that moving too as well to allow your body to heal and integrate and process. So movement is just so important.
My dad is a funny guy. He's not necessarily into health and wellness. And what he always says is he doesn't want to eat healthy things or even get adjusted because he doesn't want to jar something loose is literally his catchphrase.
We've jarred him loose a couple times, and he's
But that's
like,
exactly
that's enough for now.
what these things do, is that if you're holding on to something that's stressful or grief even or shame or fear, whatever it may be you're holding in the system, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, movement is one of the things that allows your system to just like let it go, like release it. Like, so let's jar things loose.
And to give him credit, he is a wonderful man, and he was
I love my
way
dad.
more
My dad's
resistant
great.
many years ago. He's one of those guys that he's always listening,
It's
and
a
he'll
slow burn.
it's a slow burn, and not, I mean, he's lost
slowest
tons
burn.
of weight. He's healthier than he's been in probably a decade.
Yeah.
Like he's still doing the work, but there's some things like, nope, I'm good with that. And you know what? We got to respect that and honor that as well.
So daily movement. And so find what that is for you. It could even be like dancing. Maybe I was going to say dancing in the shower. That can be dangerous. If you slip, don't do that.
We didn't recommend that.
Anything to move your body and mix it up. Have fun with it. So it's a priority. It truly is a priority. You're really good about moving daily, I would say.
Gotta move.
Number 2 is actually something maybe that most people aren't going to hear about to help you process through the stress. This is what has been life-changing for me in my own stress, is expressing it. So oftentimes when we're too stressed, we actually are kind of like head down and we don't want to talk about it. And so actually talking about it, this is what I tell to Matt, hey, I'm actually feeling a little overwhelmed right now. I just want to let you know, I want to talk through it. And he's like, okay, like what are you overwhelmed about? And I say, well, this week I have maybe too many things on my calendar, and I just really want to kind of get it out, because me not talking about it, I'm like ruminating in my mind. And when I'm ruminating, then I feel my stress hormones like getting stirred up, and I'm like, whoa, then it's zapping my energy, decreasing my immune system, causing inflammation, all this cascade of things that I'm not wanting to experience this week. So I want to get it out, and we can talk through it. Maybe how to navigate our schedules to maybe like shift some things around, expressing it, or even if you had a difficult conversation with somebody or a breakup, having that trusted person or partner or whatever it may be, or professional, where you can express yourself, because holding it in is actually magnifying the stress in the body.
We've talked about this in many videos, but it's that culture we live in that we tend to not want to look at things. We don't want to look at our stuff, essentially.
Or it maybe seems like we're not a happy person if we express that we're experiencing something negative, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. There's that emotional side of it. But I'm just coming from you listening to this, like whether it's with a loved one, a friend, or a partner that you have, or maybe you don't have that necessarily in your pocket, every single day, putting it on paper and writing it out, what it does is it puts attention towards what you're actually doing, because a lot of times we want to push it away, and the 95% of our nervous system just perceives it as a stress. So it's not like putting it out there for us to look at it in a different light. So I just know that. And she talks about her family not speaking. I come from a Cuban family where, like, if stuff comes up, we talk about it right away. And there's a lot of families and cultures that are like that. I find that, luckily, that for me, that was really, really healthy, because I never felt like I kept stuff bottled in on the vast majority of the time. And I just feel like sometimes when we say it, and we do this all the time, we'll express something that is bothering us. And whether it's her or me, we'll just like hold the space for that person and be like, okay, I hear you. I hear you're stressed out. And maybe it's not as big as a deal as you're making it. Maybe we can look at it in a different way.
It's
and
our
sometimes
perception of it. It's close. So like that's why it's so nice having each other. It's like, or just our friends or our circle. It kind of opens our eyes to see things in a little bit of a different way.
I feel like people are, getting down the root of it. People feel ashamed. People feel ashamed that they feel this way, and they're embarrassed, and they don't want to share with other people. But the downfall of it is that you just keep repeating that cycle within your system, and it's so much easier to work with someone else or share with someone else to kind of move through that.
That goes back to like the highlight reel on like Instagram, people only showing things. How are you, Matt? I'm good. How are you? Even if Matt's struggling, you know what I mean? That's just kind of our culture of like, yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, so I think that a piece of it, and I think authenticity is the most powerful and beautiful thing. So
totally.
Express it is so important. And that was a huge bulk of why I got really sick, was not expressing myself to any degree. So everything just bottled up, like he said, like in my system. And then the medicine, all that stuff was that was too much for my system, because I had too much stored in, basically. Number 3,
you gotta get proper sleep.
Sleep, quality sleep, not just like 9 hours. Like some people say, yeah, I sleep for 9 hours, but I still wake up extremely tired. It's actually not the duration, it's the quality of the sleep that's the most important. We're actually going to refer you guys to a sleep video that we did a few weeks ago. I'm not sure which episode it was, but it was fire.
So good.
And when it's all the ins and outs of sleep and what to be doing to create a routine to help you to really have this deep and rejuvenating slumber, which sleep is like the one time where like our nervous system has this opportunity to process our day. And if we don't have good sleep, then we're kind of backed up. And that's how this like storage thing in our system happens, like layers upon layers upon layers, because if we're not sleeping properly, that's a problem. And so just even looking at what you're taking, like, and my mom used to take sleep medications, and then we actually did some research on it. It was trazodone. We did some research on it, and it was actually saying that people on trazodone don't actually get real sleep. Like the sleep that they're getting is actually not sleep. They think they're sleeping, but they're actually not. That made us both like cringe, and she got off the medicine, and she hasn't been on it in like 20 years or whatever, or 10 years.
Yeah, and I think there's like, there's Aura rings, there's sleep trackers and all that stuff. I don't care so much about that. It's like getting into bed. I mean, I do care. I think that's great data, but it's not necessarily necessary. You don't need to get in the weeds of like, is my sleep as quality if I'm taking medication or whatever. We talk about this a lot in the office. Like people will come in here and they'll get their hands on work and they feel so much better. And there's a misperception that all of the healing is only happening on the table, but what that is doing, it's actually just recalibrating the system to go more into that deep parasympathetic, increase the vagus nerve activity, vagal tone, so that way when they go to sleep, that is when the actual healing is happening. Because when people leave here, unless it's like at 5:30 at night, 6 o'clock at night, and they're going to go to bed at 7, they still have to work the rest of the day. They have to live the rest of the day. They have to be with the kids and do actions. You don't heal when you're moving. You heal when you rest, right? The athlete doesn't heal while he's lifting the weight or running down the track. They eat nutrition and they go to sleep and they wake up rejuvenated.
And that's when they get stronger.
And that's when they get stronger, right? So sleep is the healing. And if you have trouble sleeping, again, there's things you can do. Watch the video that we've done before. The pure laying down and decompressing your spine and focusing on your breath is going to increase that vagal tone, increase the parasympathetic response, which is going to increase the healing. So don't necessarily stress out if you're not sleeping. Like, oh, I'm not going to be able to heal from my stress. You can still heal from your stress, even if you're having current issues with your sleep patterns.
And working through that will definitely help you
100%.
to sleep better.
Yeah.
My meter of how I slept the night is if I had really deep like dreams, like deep REM sleep.
Yeah.
I like know.
And that's different for everybody.
That. Yeah, and it's different. That's different for me in this season of life.
Yeah.
The next one is like
huge.
Whoa. This was also transformational for me. So this is like organization, like organizing your schedules, organizing everything. I remember like in chiropractic school, I was like talking to one of my friends and I was super stressed out about it was like maybe exam week, all of these exams I had and this paper I had to write, this case study I was doing. And she was like, have you like written, I was like, oh, I'm so stressed. She was like, have you like written out a list? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, when I'm really stressed out, I actually make a list of all the responsibilities that I have to do, and seeing it on paper, it helps me so much. And I was like, no one's ever told me that before. You know what I mean? And so that's what I do now. So that helps me so much. It's even like going to the grocery store and you have a list. You're not like running through the store and then having to go here to get butter and then all the way across over here to get strawberries. Like it's just having a list of knowing what you have to do when it is, like it just makes everything so much easier. Like it helps my brain tremendously with stress.
You have mastered this because I went to the grocery store yesterday and she sent me a list and she literally sends it in the order that you take the circle around. I'm like, this is so nice. Like my list is not organized. I just throw, bananas next to the frozen stuff and those are in 2 different places.
All about efficiency though. I would hate for you to get bananas and then forget you had to get turkey or something.
I've literally noticed it, and like yesterday, I was like, "This is so nice." I meant to tell you that, so I'm telling you now. Yeah.
Organization is big.
But what I will say with the organization, when you put it out on paper, you can then see it in a different way. And then the one thing I want to add to it is that's kind of like lessons. It's like, okay, these are all the things that I have to do. It's a lot, and it's actually like I can compartmentalize and kind of like see what I need to do. Action, right? When you're stressed out, you have maybe a lot to do or stuff's going on. prioritize those things. Like, what is one thing that I can do right now?
Yeah.
And it is really quite fascinating when you take care of one of those things on your list. And again, this is for stress when you have a lot going on in your life. You take care of one thing, that simple action step kind of eases you more than if, say, you have 10 things. It's not like it eases us 10%. It's like, oh, I feel really good. I feel accomplished. And that gives you more of those feel good hormones, the serotonin, the dopamine. And that's going to allow you to just kind of move and navigate through your stress a little bit more efficiently.
So if you're not organized, organization will help you tremendously with stress. It's helped this girl right here, big time. Number 5 is presence. This is also, these have all been transformational for me. That's why we're talking about it, and for Matt too. Presence is one of the biggest things, because when we're experiencing stress and thinking about all the things that we have to do, and these are like the mental, emotional things, I would say that are the biggest thing, where presence helps everything. But to be present in the moment now, again, this is piggybacking off of being organized. So like, I'm organized. I know what my week looks like for the most part. There's definitely going to be some maybe things that come up, but I know for the most part what's going to happen throughout the week, Monday through Friday. Then within that, I practice presence, because let's say I have a really big thing happening on Wednesday, and it's Monday right now, and it's like something really out of my comfort zone. Maybe it's like a big talk that I'm giving, or a really awkward conversation with a family member, or something where you have to do it, but instead of like suffering Monday and Tuesday, you can be present during those days. Know it's coming. Know you're going to be good. This is what's helped me the most.
Yeah, that spiritual saying or that life lesson of there is only the present moment, right? Everything in the past has already happened. Everything in the future hasn't happened yet and may never happen. The only thing we have is right here, right now. And they say the presence it's the gift, right? Because it is the moment right here, right now. So, you definitely more than me in certain aspects, and other aspects for me will future trip on something like, you had a softball game coming up that she's never played. Share your experience.
Okay, this is big, guys. This like literally just happened 2 days ago. Yesterday,
Yeah,
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
2 days ago. So Matt's in a softball league. Matt and actually Lauren are in a softball league. I have never played anything like that. I've never played softball, baseball. I've only done like track, soccer my whole life, some tennis, things like that.
She's an athlete, though.
I'm an athlete. I can hang. So Lauren hurt her quad, and so they needed another female to step in, because they need 3 females for the batting lineup. Every 4th is a female, and if there's not 3 females, then you get an automatic out when there's not one there. So I was kind of joking and being like, yeah, like I can play, like totally kidding, because I've never hit a softball before in my life, you guys.
Signed her up right away.
Literally took that information and like talked to the captain of the team and like got me to play. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was what, Sunday?
Yeah.
Sunday. The game was Tuesday night. And so I'm like, okay. And I was like, well, you got to take me hitting. Like I need to practice some basic things I've never done before. So I did that. But my thing I'm talking to you guys about is my presence. I could have easily, especially being like a top performing athlete and like a type A person, I could have easily been future tripping for 2.5 days and so stressed out about am I going to strike out? Am I going to embarrass myself? Am I going to fall? Whatever it may be. Like that was my old self that I would have really been ruminating on what it potentially could happen that was really negative for that duration before the actual event. And I am so proud of myself that I could be present in my day. And I'm like, you know what? I kept reminding myself, I'm not going to worry or think about it as much until I get there. Why suffer? Because when I was thinking about it, I was actually going towards negative things. I was nervous. I was uncomfortable. I didn't want to strike out, all the things. So I was like, you know what? Nope. I'm just going to be here right now. And I'm going to think about it when I get there. But like I just could so see myself. And the reason also I didn't want to do that, if I was stressed out about it and thinking about it, I know I would use a lot of my energy in my body ruminating and thinking about it. You know how we all do that. It's like, it's happening Friday. And then 4 days we're completely zapped and maybe we end up sick that weekend because of all the things that our body went through. So I was like, I need to use my energy so that at bat I can crush the ball or do my best. Yeah. And I'm so proud of myself because I was super present and I didn't, I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the best of it. I had a great time.
You crushed it, guys. She crushed it. She was the best female hitter out there that day. I think she got 3 hits. She did amazing.
I
and
hit
it
the
was
ball 4 times.
hit the ball 4 times, got out once. It was amazing. You did
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah.
Didn't catch the fly ball, which good. I'm
Did
glad.
not.
I was like, don't let it hit your face because
I
we
said,
got to
put
be
me
on
somewhere in
camera.
the outfield the ball won't go. And there was like all lefties that day.
Yeah, but we'll move on. And this, and to finally, it's what popped up in my head is that saying, and I can't remember who it was, but something along the lines of like, we spend so much time worrying about something that's going to happen that never happens, right?
I think it's Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza or maybe Wayne Dyer. It's like we spend so much time thinking about the future, and 99% of the time it never plays out the way that we think. So it's almost like, yeah, we just got to trust everything is working out for us, and we got to just keep moving forward and just be in this present moment and deal with what we have to deal
And
with.
that's what I want you guys to know is that if we're like doing what he's doing and like 99% of the time it doesn't happen, during that time where we are worried about it, we're at like the chemicals in the body. Like I just really want everyone to understand that during that time of us stressing out for actually no reason, you know what I mean? It's just old patterns of thinking the negative of what could come. We are negatively affected by it. Again, immune system, inflammation's increased, energy is zapped, sleep's affected, all the things. So like this is why I was like, I want to be present because I can feel myself. I can feel my body. I could easily go down that route of being too stressed out, and then I'm affected.
And if you're someone who's working on stress and you have something that happens and a reaction happens, just know it's okay. It's the 90 seconds that biochemical reaction is going to happen in your system. That's almost unstoppable. It's what happens after that is that if you continue to focus on it and ruminate on it and don't move, don't express it, don't put it down on paper, don't try to organize it, that's when those patterns are going to get more solidified, and kind of feel like you just can't get out. And then the last one to help yourself out, if you're feeling stressed, if you feel stuck, and even if you don't, just do this on a regular basis, is something we talk about probably in about 20% or 25% of our videos is getting out in nature.
And a piece of this is actually just stepping away
Yeah.
from it, but we would like to have you step away into nature.
Yeah.
Would be the best thing because it's just basking in 432 hertz frequency. It's just the negative ions, like the piece of it. It's just so good for our body. But stepping away from stress, the stressful situation is what allows our perception to maybe see it differently. And like something you always say, like we all say it is like we zoom out from the situation to see it differently because there's infinite possibilities of what could happen in any certain circumstance. We're just kind of like thinking it's going to be this way. And because we think it's going to be this way, sometimes it is that way. But if we can kind of take a step away, take some intentional breaths and be like, like maybe I'm going to see it differently this time. And maybe I want to choose something different than I always do because what I always do maybe isn't working.
Yeah, we run these patterns, we're in it. So there's that balance of like, we got to look at it. You don't want to just like push it away, right? We got to look at it. But if it's something that's kind of constantly there, that bird's eye view, that zoomed out view, it's actually quite interesting. Like going out in nature is super healing. But what nature also provides is a lot of things that you can see in the distance. When we think about our smartphones, like our smartphones make our eyes converge and actually cause our pupils to constrict, which actually increases our sympathetic nervous system, which is that stress response. When we go out in nature, and again, leave your phones in your car or at home just for that 30, 60, 90 minutes that you can be outside, and it allows your eyes to relax or allows your shoulders to relax. You look at a plant, you look at a rock down the road, you look at another tree down the road, everything softens in your face, softens in your heart, softens in your belly. Your eyes actually will dilate, opening up, increasing your parasympathetic response. So you don't even have to think about it. You just have to be out in nature, and naturally your body will just start getting into a more regulated state.
And sometimes I even have like kind of like a little prayer, like a mantra that when something is happening, I'm like asking, like, I want to see this differently. Like, why am I, like, what are my blind spots? Like, show me what I'm not seeing, or show me how I can move through this more gracefully. And like, it's answered every time. It's just like the knowing that you can actually ask life, ask a higher intelligence, that higher power, whatever we want to call it, something different to like help you see it differently. Like it's all our perception of it too. That's the issue at times.
It all comes down.
Or the gift at times.
It's all the above, and you're absolutely right. The last thing I say, it's all perception, right?
It's all perception.
Well, guys, this was a longer video than we thought it was going to be, but also I believe truly important to just reframe stress, understanding that stress inherently isn't bad. It's just experiences that we have to grow and evolve from, and that's what we all signed up for, living this life, right? So we hope you found value in this video. If you did, please like, please subscribe, please share with a friend. Until next one, have a wonderful day.